One of the most challenging statements ever spoken by Jesus Christ is found in the Gospel of Luke. He said, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me." Luke 9, verse 23. At first glance, those words seem almost impossible. In a world that constantly tells us to believe in ourselves, promote ourselves, and follow our desires, Jesus says something radically different. Deny yourself. So the question is, what did he really mean? Was Jesus asking people to hate themselves? To suppress their identity? To live in constant self-rejection? Or was he pointing to something much deeper? To understand this statement, we must look at the historical setting, the moment in Jesus' ministry, and the theological meaning behind his words. The statement recorded in Luke 9 did not appear in isolation. It came at a turning point in the ministry of Jesus Christ. Up to this moment, Jesus had been gaining enormous attention. Crowds were gathering. Miracles were spreading his reputation. People were beginning to ask an important question: who is this man? In fact, just a few verses earlier, Peter makes one of the most famous declarations in the New Testament. When Jesus asks the disciples who they believe he is, Peter answers, "You are the Christ of God." For the disciples, this meant Messiah. But their understanding of the Messiah was shaped by centuries of expectation. First-century Jews believed the Messiah would be a political deliverer, someone who would overthrow Roman rule and restore the kingdom of Israel. They expected power, victory, and national restoration. But immediately after Peter's declaration, Jesus says something shocking. He begins explaining that the Son of Man must suffer, be rejected, and be killed. This was completely contrary to their expectations. The disciples wanted a conquering king, but Jesus spoke about a suffering servant. And it is precisely in this moment that Jesus introduces the idea of self-denial. The phrase "deny yourself" in the original Greek carries a powerful meaning. The word used implies renouncing one's claim to oneself. It does not mean self-hatred. It means relinquishing control. In other words, Jesus is saying, to follow him, a person must give up the idea that their own will is the highest authority in their life. This was a radical statement in the ancient world, but it is equally radical today, because human nature tends to place the self at the center. Our desires, our ambitions, our plans. Yet Jesus challenges that foundation. He calls people to a new orientation of life, one where God's will replaces self-will. This is why the early Christian community saw discipleship not merely as belief, but as allegiance. To follow Christ meant surrendering the throne of one's life. Immediately after saying, "Deny yourself," Jesus adds another phrase, "Take up your cross daily." For modern readers, the cross is a religious symbol. But for the first-century audience, the cross meant something very different. It was an instrument of Roman execution. Crucifixion was reserved for criminals, rebels, and those considered enemies of the state. When someone carried a cross through the streets, it meant only one thing: they were walking toward death. So when Jesus told his followers to take up their cross, he was not speaking metaphorically about inconvenience. He was describing a life of total surrender and loyalty, even in the face of suffering. This teaching reflects a deep theological truth found throughout the New Testament. The path to life often passes through sacrifice and surrender. The call to deny oneself is not about losing identity. It is about discovering a new identity. The early church understood that discipleship involved a transformation of the self. Instead of being governed by ego, desire, or fear, believers were called to live under the lordship of Christ. This is why Jesus later says something paradoxical: "Whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." In the kingdom of God, true life is not found in self-preservation. It is found in self-surrender. Today, the words of Jesus still confront us, because modern culture emphasizes self-expression, self-promotion, and personal autonomy. But the teaching of Christ invites us into something deeper. Not the destruction of the self, but the reordering of the self. It asks a fundamental question: who truly governs your life? Your desires, your ambitions, or God? To deny oneself is ultimately to say, "My life is not my own," and that surrender becomes the beginning of true freedom. The words of Jesus Christ remain as challenging today as they were 2,000 years ago. Deny yourself, take up your cross daily, and follow me. This was not simply advice. It was an invitation to a different way of living, a way marked by surrender, transformation, and ultimately life. Now, before we continue this series, consider this question. What do you think Jesus meant when he said, "Deny yourself"? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.